Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. Going to take a look this week at the astrological weather report for the week of December 9th through 15th, and three big events I'm going to talk about mainly. Thursday, Venus is opposite Mars, and then Sunday, pretty busy Sunday, we got a full moon in Gemini. I got it up here on the board, 24 degrees of Gemini with a T square, a mutable T square to Neptune in Pisces. And then that's also the day Mercury goes direct. So just a little business first, little infomercial first. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog I've been doing for years on YouTube. So if you have a YouTube account, you like what you see, please become a follower. Turn on your notifications so you know when it comes up. Remember, it's also available on podcasts. It was a podcast long before a YouTube channel. If you want just the audio feed, it's available. Just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcast. You'll find it out there. It's on a bunch of them. It's also, the link is available on Instagram. So if you have an Instagram account, Astrological Winds channel, become a follower. You'll find the link there. Sometimes I post other comments there too. And it's also always available and found on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. And just go to the blogs tab and you'll see not only this week's, but a bunch from the past. If you need to check something out from the past, last of the monthly or whatever, they're available there for a while. So those are, and the website also has all my professional services. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years. If you or someone you know needs some kind of reading, please check the menu out. There's all kinds of readings I give. Also do stuff for groups. There's ways to contact me right there on the web, and there's my email right here on the board too. If you'd like to give a donation to the blog, I really appreciate that. There's my Cash App and Venmo handles on the board also. No amount's too small. Some people have been giving lately. I really appreciate all of your giving. Thank you so much. And also, the one thing I do ask is that you pass the link on every time you listen to the blog. Pass it on to someone else. That's really the way I'd like it to grow. Now, I just wanted to, mention three things that I know there's been a lot of new followers, and I used to mention this every time, but I want to just remind you guys of these three things. I'm doing the weekly report. It's only stuff from the sun out. I do not talk about what the moon is doing except, on the full moons and the big events. So like every day there's moon aspects also that flavor the emotions and the energy of that day. And I just can't offer that as a free service. It's just too much work to do. So remember that there's those effects, even on days I don't mention going on during the week, there's usually lunar aspects going on. The other thing is too, in your own chart, you're getting aspects too. So like that flavors the way the energy is playing out for you every week personally. And if you don't know your own chart, this is another good reason why you should get it read by me or a professional, not by a computer, not by someone who read a book, or not you going and reading a book. It's a huge, huge difference. Just as magical as this blog is how magical a reading will be for you, so like, that's one of the reasons to know your chart well, because there is things that are going on in your chart every day that flavor the energy that's going on each week for you in a very individualistic way. And remember, if you haven't been listening to the vlog for a while, you don't know astrology well, don't get caught up on the terms that I'm talking about astrologically. You want to listen to your interpretation in between. The power is in the knowledge of knowing what the energy is and being able to work with it. You don't need to know why if you're not someone who knows astrology terms well. So don't get lost on them. And I just want to mention a couple things from last week because that's the way it is. I mean, you see how astrology works every day, not only for yourself but in society. And I've been talking about how this Mercury retrograde period opposite the Jupiter, people's big plans who don't have the details are going to get seriously tripped up. Well, our president-elect has been seriously tripped up over and over since he won. It seems like almost every person that he's named in his cabinet maybe he had a big idea about what this person can do, but he didn't vet them. He didn't look at the details well. So look at how many of these people have had to step aside or being challenged by Congress that they may not be up for the job. This is a perfect example of Mercury retrograde with the hens coming home to roost on things that you thought were these great ideas that you just did not look into. And then you look like the fool, basically. I hate to say that, in this case, but that's what it really makes you look like, And then the other thing is, the other example is this shooting that occurred of the United Healthcare president. Here once again, big plans, lots of money, things like that, people benefiting, and then not taking care of the details of actually taking care of your customers. And when Mercury retrograde or some other trigger that's really hard, and whoever pulled the trigger, whatever was going on in his chart, brought him up to the point where, okay, this is the action I'm going to take as like a lone wolf in this situation, and really, make a statement that, a lot of people have sympathy for, actually, because you haven't been truthful, you've been a hypocrite, you're not you're not taking care of the details of the plans that you're telling people that you're going to do for them. So two great examples in the world. And, I'm sure you guys all have examples in your own life about how that's going on. Okay, I want to get going on the weekly here, and I know not get too far off. We got a couple things I wanted to talk about also besides the three major things. And that starts on Tuesday, actually. On Tuesday, when the sun is trine Chiron and it's sextile Vesta on that day. Okay. And so this is really interesting because this is one during the Mercury retrograde period too, where it shows what we've been going through and experiencing, we may be integrating really well. And it's giving us a really good view of what we want and don't want and who we want and don't want in our lives. And the people that we are integrating well with what we believe in are the people that we want to be in, because they're giving us, they're allowing us to tap into creative energy outlets that, before that were not being used as well. And it's helping us to discover new parts of ourselves, which feel very rewarding, which feel very satisfying, which feel very healing, where we're able to bring out some of the things that we have as gifts, maybe even discovering new layers to them, because we're doing this integration. And that integration is really showing us who and what we are and what we believe in, and we're getting solid behind that. And then we're like, oh, these are the people, these are the groups that I want to be with, these are the ones I don't want to be with. And wow, now when I lock into that, everything starts to flower for me, and that is such a healing energy. And then we can find new creative ways that, just who knows where these avenues can lead us to just great new places, and just feeds very positive parts of our personality. So the week starts off really, what I think really, really well on that level, when you realize and really are clear about what you want and can get away from people and situations that are overwhelming you, or even feel like they're possessing you somehow, like maybe even by just association, and now all of a sudden, you can get that out, and this creative output opens up and makes you feel so much personally more satisfied in finding new parts of yourself. Okay, so Thursday is the first big event, and we've got Venus, which is in Aquarius, going opposite to Mars in Leo, retrograde Mars in Leo still. So this one is definitely I talked about the battle of the sexes energy that had come up recently. And this is definitely another one of those things. This shows that there's tension in relationships, especially any kind of relationship that has creative energy tied into it. And what is the highest form of creative energy? Sexual energy, right? We create new beings, so here there can be tension in relationships. Any relationship that has romance and sexuality mixed up in it can come under tension and stress here, and you can get very upset with your SO or a person who's your romantic or sexual interest, especially if they're coming from a different space than you, which is usually what the opposition is all about. Now, that being said, if you have a good relationship with someone, and and it, once again, mainly romantic, sexual, or even creative type energy that can be outputted, and there's good balance, this can really stoke up that energy between the two of you. It can really bring your libidos up. It can mix sexuality and romance in a beautiful give and take situation, which can really manifest into something lovely. Now, this is very creative energy. Venus and Mars together is very creative. So if there is frustration, sexually or romantically, rather than getting into some battle with someone, which, normally this energy is argumentative, it's battling, it's fighting it out, with your loved ones, because you're not feeling in balance and you're feeling like, a lot of tension. Well, if you're feeling that way, a really good way to express this energy is to actually do something creative, to actually output creativity. Use the Mars to take the creativity of Venus, and that way it's a great way to express the tension in that energy rather than picking on your partner or somebody else and projecting your frustration out there. Remember, that's what oppositions do. They're projecting energy out that you're feeling onto the other and then seeing them as the enemy. So if we can come to terms with that stuff ourselves some way, then it doesn't have to go that way. See what the power of astrology can give you? Another option, another choice, but you need to be conscious of it, right? So here we're getting some help too, believe it or not, from Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is actually sextiling Venus exactly that day too, and is within a degree of trining Mars retrograde. So I really think this is going to help out with the tension. Mercury Venus is like, yes, I do want to talk about my emotions. I can articulate my feelings very well, but I can also keep it not heavy, not get it like where someone feels like they need to defend themselves or something. I can tell you in a positive, lighthearted, optimistic way how I'm feeling, and it won't threaten you, right? And so this is a really going to help out with this energy to bring it back into balance. And once again, strong stimulation of creative energy, especially coming from the mind. So this is where you can take the Venus, Mars, especially the Venus in Aquarius and Mars in Leo too, two yang signs that are not as, emotional. Although Leo can definitely get emotional, but like, once again, blending it with Mercury, Venus, with this creative intellectual energy is a great blend. So any kind of creative intellectual output, words, right? Your speech, music, lyrics, storytelling, things like that, and also using, like, even media and things like that, getting messages out, right? And then the trine to Mars retrograde is only going to help. It shows that the energy is moving smoothly and agilely in the creative sphere, and that you actually really believe in what you're saying. So there's a lot of confidence coming behind that. It's not something that I'm going to back down easily, but, back out of easily, but I can find a harmonious way to bring that. So I really think Mercury retrograde, with these two positive aspects going on to Mars and Venus that are in opposition to each other, are going to help take a lot of that edge off and either steer it into some individual creative endeavor that can, take some of the tension out, or we can actually come together and speak our needs and feelings out well enough without creating defensiveness in the other person, and come to some deeper understanding. And then if it's a romantic sexual thing, like I said, that can really be a turn on, that can really get that energy up. It can really be like, wow, this person and I have a really creative, unique balance, and it really turns me on. Right. So, okay. So that's the energy going on Thursday. Now, Friday, there is something going on Friday, and I talked at length about it last week. And here's one of those places where if you didn't listen to last week, I'm sending you back because I'm not going to talk about it at all. Today, Friday, is the day that Jupiter has the second sesquiquadrate to Pluto, which was really the only major aspect of the month. So I talked about it in pretty good detail last week. Go back, find it. It's near the beginning of the blog in the monthly part. And then comes Sunday, which is the day of the full moon in Gemini. So full moon at 24 degrees Gemini, opposite the sun at 24 degrees Sag, right? That's always the full moon, right? Moon, opposite sun. So there's that opposition again. There's the tension between two different sides. So we always remember full moon is very energizing because of this tension. We feel emotional tension inside versus what's going on in the world outside that's being brought to us through events or other people. And then when the full moon comes, the light is on us and we act it out. So this is why we see a lot of individuals act out publicly or in the light some maybe irrational behavior during the full moon. Remember, don't make decisions during the full moon because you're going to probably be on a high or low. This is not the time to go act out, right? So, here the tension going on is between Gemini moon and sun and Sag. And it's pretty interesting because, they're on the axis of knowledge and communicating and information together, Gemini and Sag. So they do, in many ways, have a lot of similarities. They're seeking new input through knowledge. It's just what the way that they're going about that is what's creating the tension. For the moon in Gemini, the moon in Gemini just gets security just from the input alone, is a good way to say it. Okay. Just getting information. It's the curious mind. I've used this before, and if you've watched the blog for years, Gemini's like the butterfly. It goes from one thing to another. A little bit of info here, a little bit of info there, a little travel here, a little travel there, a lot of local activity, picking things up. So in a way, it's superficial. It's on the surface, a lot of the energy. It doesn't integrate it and take it to a very deeper level, but it's collecting a very wide primary knowledge base that actually can change the way you believe in things and the way you see things. So that's, what that Gemini moon wants is just the input. And then the other thing it likes to do when it gets that input is to talk it over, to bounce it off somebody else, the communication part of the Gemini. And it really is doing that for its own benefit. It's really doing that to be like, someone else nods their head. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I agree. That must be right then. So, that's the Gemini moon doing its thing. Well, the sun in Sag is like, no, let's go to college, instead. Let's take one of these things that you're interested in, Gemini, and really focus on it. Let's dive down deep. Let's take it to the new horizon, right? Let's take it to higher knowledge. Let's get intuitive insight out of it because we're integrating it so deeply. We're experiencing it. We're being more tolerant of just our local area. We're getting information from everywhere in the world, other cultures, other people, just all kinds of new information. So Sag is kind of impatient with this Gemini energy. It's like, no, you're not taking it deep and far enough that it becomes something that can really up the game, can up your knowledge base, can help you grow, can help you evolutionize, right? Can help your consciousness expand. So that's where the basic opposition is going on with this energy. And then Neptune steps in between the two of them. And I will say this in the initial thing of this favors the Sagittarius sun side to win out in this battle because Neptune is also very interested in taking more in. It just does it in a different way than Sag does. It kind of absorbs it it like literally unifies itself with the environment or surroundings, and it's, coming in from a more emotional space because it's a water sign. So there's an absorption of higher knowledge that comes in through emotional input on a deeper level through the Neptune and Pisces. So that's going to be really favor the Sun and Sag. But here's the thing: Moon square Neptune, Sun square Neptune equals confusion. One word, right? Confusion. This can really have us feel confused. And the main reason why is because the things we believe in, the ideals that we believe in, are not doing very well in the real world. They're not vibing well with the real world. Reality is a lot harsher than what our ideals are. So this energy with Neptune can be very disheartening, can be very discouraging, can bring us down, can actually physically sap our energy and make us susceptible to illnesses or allergies or sensitivity to our environment or substances, even, and also makes us susceptible to like falling into a place where we're kind of almost in a depression because our ideals are not working in that reality. And all that stuff does is make us like escape artists. Then we start to look for something to like take us away from the harsher things of reality. So for a lot of people, that's substances. They use some kind of substance to inebriate themselves and make a barrier between the harshness of reality and the idealism that they'd like to see in reality, which is under stress and failing a lot of times. And so that's what we're up against. Now, the thing is, we can still have very beautiful moments, very unifying moments with nature and spirit with this energy, but they're very inspirational, they're very imaginative, but they're not very concrete or real, okay? Is a good way to say it. So there is that availability, and you may find yourself with some of those moments. Now, remember, the open end of the T square, which is Virgo, opposite Pisces, is showing us that the best way to deal with this energy again is to take care of details. The thing, once again, something that both Gemini and Sag have a problem with, taking care of details, and Pisces too. All three of them have a problem. So it's going to be really easy during this, and especially, going into the holiday season, to use even the holiday season as a, barrier against the harsh world of reality that's going on right now. And we all agree the world is in a very tenuous, tense, harsh place. There's a lot of division going on. There's a lot of surprising events going on. I mean, we had, another event last week, I mentioned too, with the Trump and the UAC, but the whole thing with Syria completely falling in literally days. The government of Syria fell, because once again, overlooked plans by the Russians and Iranians. They spread their borders too thin, going and trying to get into other battles with other countries, and now all of a sudden they're not there to help protect Syria. So boom, didn't take care of the details, whole thing collapses again. So very interesting energy here, but this can really bring a lot of inspiration too. That Sun, Moon, Neptune with Sagittarius and Pisces can feed into a lot of this even artistic energy of bringing a lot of imaginative energy, a lot of inspiration, spiritual journeys, artistic journeys, things like that, So we have to just be really careful about becoming a follower, becoming a victim, or becoming the great deceiver. See, that's the other issue with this. No matter how hard things are going for you, don't become the liar or deceiver yourself under this energy, because you're going to get caught, okay? And you're going to add to the confusion, and then you're going to lose standing in your reputation with others and community for being a deceiver. So, there's going to be many temptations, excuse me, to do that. And that's not the way to deal with this. The way to deal with this is to get into the details of what needs to be done and start working on that if you really want to get your ideals into reality. It's just not going to happen by itself. So, I mean, that's what I have for that. Now, there is another interesting aspect on Sunday. The sun is quincunx Uranus. And so the sun's down here, and Uranus is in Taurus. So it's like up here, and the sun is making a quincunx to it, but the moon is not really making any aspects. I don't do semi-sextiles. If you're an astrologer, like saying right now, what do you mean, Matt? Sorry, they just don't really exist too much in the world. But there is a sun quincunx Uranus going on the same day, and this can make us very rebellious, very impatient with any person, situation, or anything that's blocking us or restricting us. And we can be very rebellious. We'll know that that's not what we want, even if we're not sure what we want to replace it. So, so we have to be really careful with this. We can be a contrarian, right? And just like, all of a sudden, really go on another path, but even be not sure if that's the right path. And this can also bring sudden changes to our plans on Sunday. So we may have to make adjustments on the fly that, actually may end up give us more freedom and liberation. But when it's happening, it can feel really chaotic and very upsetting. So like it can set us off in a completely different direction. So a very restless energy to add to the restlessness already of the full moon. It's a little bit edgy there. Now, one thing, I wanted to talk about too is the full moon is ruled by Mercury. Well, Mercury happens to be stationing direct that day. That is the day that Mercury's turning around. So it's standing still in the sky. It's the third change of direction during the retrograde phase, which means that the retrograde energy is actually hitting a peak again this weekend coming up. But once that weekend's over, it's going to start easing off. We'll go into the shadow period for a couple weeks, and we'll slowly, all those Mercury retrograde things will start to straighten out. The travel, the communications, the learning, our projects will all start to move forward again. But it's interesting that the full moon is ruled by that Mercury stationary because it shows it's very strong. And the aspect it's having is that trine to Mars that I mentioned back here. So there is an ability, if you're feeling strong about what you believe in, that you can really get a flow going out during this energy and start to push that energy out, especially now that Mercury is turning around. That's when we can start to get our messaging back out. And I'll be honest with you, it'll be in shadow period right through the holiday season. The holiday traveling probably won't be as bad, but like the energy really blends in well with how the holiday season affects regular business. Everything kind of slows down that week or two. So during the shadow period, it really aligns with how the energy usually is anyway. And then once we get to the other side of the holidays and the new year, that's when it'll be out of shadow and you can take a lot of these plans and start pushing them forward. So continue to work on the details is the point. All right. Well, that's what I got for you guys this week. A good, some good stuff there to work with, some good suggestions for you on how to work with it. Remember to pass the link along. And then next week, I've got another weekly before we do a monthly again. So next week is the solstice, actually. We're going to go into winter. So that means sun goes into Capricorn. And usually I do, and I will do again, a annual forecast for 2025 based on the solstice chart for the United States. I can look at that chart and give all you guys some really good hints on general trends of what we can expect in the US. So that'll be an extra blog, but I will be talking about the sun going into Capricorn otherwise as we go into that period next week. So this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Wings channel. I'd really like you to pass the link on to somebody else right now. And I'd really like you to support me if you need some astrological services. There's an awful lot of you guys watching the blog these days and listening to it. And, if you haven't had it done professionally, then you're missing a lot. And your chart is never going to go away from you. Like the new pair of jeans that you buy for $150 is going to go away. The new car is eventually going to break down, but your chart's always going to be with you. Invest in yourself. Know thyself. Know the energy you're working with. Get a professional to do your chart. It's not the same as a computer printout that's 80 pages long. Trust me. Doesn't see the holistic ways of everything tying together like a trained professional astrologer with experience has. And if you have a group too, I give classes, workshops, etc. I also have couple people who really want to be students. I'd love to do a live class on a weekly basis if we can find a couple more. But I do tutoring too, and I do classes that are just like downloaded files on MP3 that you can check out too. But if you have a group that's interested in stuff, here's my email. The website's www.astrologicalwinds.com. Follow me on YouTube. If you've got a YouTube account, follow me on Instagram, Astrological Winds channel on both of them. Check the website out. And if you can give a small donation to the blog, it does cost me a little money to actually even put it out. My Cash App is $Matthew Lawton, and Venmo is at Matthew-Lawton. So I really appreciate all you guys. Really appreciate how many people are watching, and how many people are responding, some of the comments, and thank you so much. I appreciated all of you, and I will check in next week with all of you. We'll look at that solstice stuff, and see what you can do with this full moon and with this Venus opposite Mars this week. See if you can use some of this information I've given you as power now to change things in your life, to make a different decision, to make a decision that's not out of ignorance, and maybe more in a flow for yourself. Okay, I'll see you all next week.